Loves, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about 12 freight broker terms that you should know within the supply chain, the trucking industry. These are terms you should know as a carrier, dispatch. They all come into one, and you're going to hear these terms often. So I want you to know why you're hearing these terms, what this paperwork is for. So it's to educate you on the terms that we're using daily. The 12 that I picked, I use often, every day in my logistics career journey. So here we go. Number one, FTL. FTL, that is a full truckload. Full truckload. That is a 53-foot dry van trailer or a 53-foot reefer trailer, reefer meaning refrigerated, that will take up the entire truck. That is a full truckload up to 45,000 pounds. Some carriers will not take it that heavy, others will, but you're maxing out a full truckload at 45,000 pounds. A lot of the standard freight that I move is full truckload. Okay. Number two, less than truckload, LTL. That is a less than truckload. What a shipper will do, or a carrier will do, is take multiple different loads from multiple different shippers and combined it into one full truckload. So the carrier can have multiple different shipments, let's just say 6 to 7 customers on one truck. One truck, multiple different shippers have their freight. This freight is going to move a lot. It's going to exchange a lot of hands. This truck is also going to stop a lot. It is not going to be a point A to point B delivery. It's going to be more like A through J because there's multiple stops with a less than truckload than there would be with a full truckload. A full truckload is going from point A to B. A less than truckload is moving to A, B, C, D, E, multiple different terminals. So it's going to switch hands a lot more. A less than truckload also will cap you at 10K. 10,000 on the weight per customer, building it up to a full truckload. They're consolidating. The term consolidate means to put everything together on one trailer and get it out of there. Number three, deadhead. A deadhead is when a carrier comes from a previous manufacturer, previous supplier, and they have to deadhead empty. The trailer is completely empty. So from point A to point B, they're riding completely empty. There is nothing in the trailer. Okay. And you're going to look at this when you're utilizing the load board. You're going to see that there's some numbers in the top left corner that will tell you, oh, 162 DH. That means that that truck is 162 miles deadhead to get to where you need him to pick up. So think about that in your mind. A lot of carriers do not want to deadhead more than 30, 40 miles because they're not making any money. Their trailer is completely empty. If a carrier is loaded, then they're making money. But if the trailer's empty and they have to deadhead, you have to think about how far they have to deadhead or they're willing to deadhead to make it to the next load. Number four is a lane. You're going to hear the term lane used a lot. That is from point A to point B. Buffalo, New York to Pittsburgh is a lane. Pittsburgh to Leesburg, Florida is a lane. Okay, point A to point B is a lane. And you're going to hear that a lot when you're negotiating freight rates, quoting customers, or talking on pricing, or even in the industry market trend. You know, some people will ask, well, what is that lane currently going for? That is a lane, point A to point B. And there can be stops in the middle, you know, point A to B to C to D, but that is a industry standard lane, point A to point B. Number five is FCFS. That is first come, first serve. When you are booking a load, a lot of drivers like to do first come, first serve or by appointments. First come, first serve means if the establishment opens at 6 a.m. and you were there at 5:55, you're getting unloaded first so you can move on with your day. You don't need an appointment, you don't need to wait around. It's first come, first serve. Now, on the other hand, if you show up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and this shipper closes at 2:15, there could be a potential problem. It was first come, first serve, but you have to think about the carriers that were ahead of you, the carriers that did show up, previous to when you were supposed to be there. A lot of the times, if it's 2 p.m. and the shipper closes at 2:15, they will cut it off at 1 p.m. They will let the broker know way ahead of time, hey, we're going to cut it off at 1 p.m. We can't take anybody past 1 because a lot of the times when you're unloading, it could take a good amount of time to get all of that freight off of the trailer, unless you're doing an LTL load, but that's still very close to cut at 2 p.m. and they close at 2:15. The shipper will cut it at 1 just in case they have late trucks or there's a situation that comes up. Number 6 is POD. POD stands for proof of delivery. And the proof of delivery, you want that as soon as you can get it. That shows the broker proof that that load was delivered with a signature, a timestamp. The POD is extremely important. That gives verification that the load was delivered, whether it was on time, whether it was late, whether it was a day ahead, a day by. A POD is really important, and that also gets the carrier paid. A lot of the times you will have to kind of drill for the POD. So I kind of tell my carriers, I need a proof of delivery, I need the POD within 72 hours, or there is going to be a charge, a 5% fee, $30 fee. I do that to protect the carrier because if payments are being delayed, 9 times out of 10, it's because a carrier didn't send the POD. A POD is extremely important. It is a proof of delivery. It shows me that you delivered that freight on time. Number 7 is detention. A detention fee. This is when a shipper has to pay a carrier for waiting to be unloaded too long. If a carrier has a delivery time, a scheduled appointment at 1 p.m., they pull up to get unloaded, and what happens is all of a sudden they look down and it's 6 o'clock. That is a detention fee. Waiting at a shipper, holding up a driver when he can be out here moving on, she can be out here moving on to her next load, to consistently go on about her day and continue to make money in the truck. So, a lot of the times, what I would do within DD Logistics is I'm very honest with my customers. This carrier cannot wait any more than 3 hours, or we're going to start charging a detention rate of 20% of what the load was, $100 of, and sometimes you're going to have to really fight for your carrier on this because not everyone wants to pay a detention fee. You might run into manufacturers who have skeleton crews, someone called out sick that they didn't plan for. That's just a logistical thing, but it doesn't mean that you can hold up the driver when they are there on time. But things do happen. We understand that, but a detention fee, a shipper will have to pay that if the truck is waiting too long to either A, pick up, or B, to unload. Number 8 is a rate confirmation. A rate confirmation is between the broker and the carrier. I'm going to give you an example. A manufacturer customer that I work with side by side, I quote them. They award me the quote for, let's just say, $3,000. I then go and sell it to the carrier for $2,700. A rate confirmation has to be put in place. It is basically like a receipt showing this is what DD Logistics and the carrier agreed to rate price wise. You cannot come out here and move any freight. No freight moves. Let me say, I'm going to say this with my glasses on at the tip of my nose. No freight can move within the industry without a rate confirmation. That is first. Before the truck goes to the manufacturer, before the truck goes anywhere, you need a rate confirmation. No booking freight without a rate confirmation, okay? And I'm serious. That's why my glasses are at the tip of my nose, okay? You cannot book freight without a rate confirmation that locks in the price. The carrier cannot come back and say, hey, Dee Dee, I see that I asked for $3,000, but on the rate confirmation you put blah, 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 blah. Once the rate confirmation is sent and signed, that price is locked in. No more negotiating. I sold that shipment to you for a price and we locked it in. You locked it in with your signature. A rate confirmation also has a lot of information, not just price. It has the pickup information, the delivery information, time, because when something happens within this shipment and you go back and you look at the rate confirmation, a driver will call and say, oh, well, the rate confirmation said 3 o'clock. Okay, so, why are you there at 5? Why did you show up at 5 p.m.? Let's go back to the rate confirmation and look what it really says. So that is a very important document. A rate confirmation locks in the rate. It gives the carrier all the information he needs. You can also, I love to add notes to my rate confirmation. I always put things like, hey, you need to have tracking on this load. When I send you the tracker link, it needs to be open within an hour, okay? Or there's a charge. All right? POD needs to be sent in the next 72 hours. You need to tarp the freight, which is putting a tarp over the freight to keep it safe if there's any bad weather conditions. A rate confirmation, you can put so much information, PO numbers, the weight of the freight, what kind of commodity they're going to pick up. But you can always go back to that if there's any ever, can't even get it out. That's how important it is. If there's any confusion with the driver, do not show up at the facility at 1 o'clock if the Raycon states that there's an appointment to pick up at 10 a.m. And I think I'm getting a little flustered about this because I'm always, a lot of the times, I have to go back to the Raycon. We're always in situations in logistics where it's like, hey, what happened? You had an appointment. It was at 10 a.m. Why did you show up at 1 o'clock? Let's go back and look at it again. So a rate confirmation is important. Please don't book freight without it, okay? All right, number 9 is a load board. A load board is a tool that is going to help you match two carriers. A load board is a tool. I have to say that again because when you're coming up in the logistics industry, you need a load board. It is a web-based subscription monthly. So it's going to be part of your expenses, but it is going to connect you with a certain amount of carriers that are going to partner with you, you're going to build relationships with, and down the line, you might not need a load board. You might move freight consistently over and over again, but in the beginning of your career, you need a load board. There are so many good carriers on there daily that are always checking their app to see what kind of freight is out there. Based on where they are positioned, you can get them out of a state, you can get them into a state, you can get them closer to home. And typical load boards, I use DAT. When I first started, I did not know that DAT meant dial a truck. It's like, it's so simple, but I never knew that. So that's a little bit of information for you. There's other ones like Truck Stop, but they have tools because people ask me, and I feel like I should make another video on rates because people ask me, well, how do you know what a lane is going for? That's that's an industry trend. That is within the load board. They give you a tool. I believe DATs is called RateMate, but you can look, enter information. Okay, Buffalo, New York, here, point A, to Leesburg, Florida. Whatever's going on in that load board, all the data is going to accumulate and it's going to show you what that lane has been going for in the last 90 days. A load board is really important to have. It's a tool that's going to help you grow. And I'm at the point now where I need a load board, but I don't because I've gotten so many good carriers off of the load board to connect with me and paid them on time and, made sure things were in place to get them consistent freight. But it is so nice to have. It connects you. It also gives you a score, like DAT. Carriers can see, okay, well, what is her broker score? It's a tool and it is awesome. So you need a load board, okay? It matches you with carriers, helps you build relationships, and it's something that you should have. Number 10 is capacity. Capacity is the volume of goods a carrier can transport at any given time. And I actually wrote this down because this is important. You'll hear two different terms. One is tight capacity, another one is loose capacity. And you're going to hear that often when you're talking about market trends. Oh, well, is the capacity tight or is the capacity loose? And this can be because of weather, the seasonal, Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day. These are all things that can kind of affect capacity. So, tight capacity is when fewer trucks are available. And then I wanted to make sure I was giving this information right, so that's why I wrote it down because I'm. This is really to educate. Loose capacity is when more trucks are available than the demand of freight. Seasons slow that down. Seasonal freight. Christmas is a big one. Um, Thanksgiving is another one, and weather plays a huge role. I don't think a lot of people realize when you're booking freight or you're talking to shippers, manufacturers, that weather plays a huge role. It affects price, it affects the time, it affects so many different aspects of moving freight. For instance, I'll give you an example. One is Pennsylvania. A lot of my guys don't want to move heavy freight in Pennsylvania. But do you know why? Do you? A lot of it is because the hills. Pennsylvania, certain parts are like a roller coaster. My guys are trying to carry 42K on the weight, up and down, up and down. That can cause a lot of wear and tear on the truck. And they will negotiate that. You will hear a carrier say, well, I negotiated that with you because, I'm in the middle of the hills. I'm going up and down. Now, put weather along with Pennsylvania. Is it icy? Is it winter? Like, what is going on in that area? Think it through. Think it through because these are things that affect the supply chain. These are the things that affect the pricing of the freight. So it's just something to really think about. But capacity is another important one. All right, number 11 is intermodal. That is moving freight within two different modes of transportation. We don't only run in the supply chain on the ground. And a lot of this might seem like common sense, but if I'm going to educate, these are things that I need to bring up. Um, Intermodal can also mean rail, like train freight, but it's using more than one method of transportation, whether it's air, train, ground. There's multiple different modes that you can move freight within. Containerized, and then it also means the rail, the train, the rail, intermodal. At first, when I thought about that, I'm like, I'm not sure what intermodal really means. But when I did more research, it has two separate meanings, two modes of transportation and rail, which is the trains. All right, you made it. Number 12, BOL. The BOL is the bill of lading. It is basically a receipt of goods. It's going to have multiple different information on it. You're going to get a BOL from your manufacturer, also known as your shipper. Okay. They're going to share a BOL with you so you can move forward and be successful in other documents and making a freight shipment successful. There's going to be so much information on there: PO numbers, pickup, delivery, the weight, the commodity of freight. You're going to get a lot of information within a BOL. Okay. And that's going to come from your manufacturer. You need that. You can't just go off of their word. You need a document that states this is when we want it picked up, this is what you're picking up, this is where you're picking it up. BOL, bill of lading. And that will help you with your rate confirmation as well, because you'll have so much information on the bill of lading from the customer. You want to make sure things are set in stone, that you have a document that legally can show you what you and the customer arranged within that shipment. All right, here's a bonus because we got through all 12. I'm so happy you're here. A bonus, number 13, also known as the bonus, is commodity. The commodity is what you're shipping. Is it water? Is it flour? Is it lumber? Is it clothing? Is it electronics? That is the commodity that you need to know. A lot of drivers want to know, all drivers want to know, what are they shipping? What is going in my truck? Some of them don't like to ship onions. Some of them hate to ship coffee. I remember I had a carrier and I was going to book a load with him. He's like, well, what is the commodity? Because I left it blank on the load board. I never filled in the commodity section. And I told him, I'm like, it's coffee. And he was like, I cannot ship that freight. I'm like, well, what's going on? He basically told me that coffee leaves a smell within his trailer. So he'll have a hard time after he makes that shipment. No matter how it's bagged, no matter how it's boxed, it will leave an odor. So then he'll have to get out, he'll have to clean his trailer, charge an additional fee. So he just made it very clear, I'm not going to move that freight. So they want to know the commodity. And these drivers, they're so good at what they do, they will tell you. And the connections that I have, I'm in the back office. I am the 3PL, but I have carriers. And the carriers are very open and honest with me. They're out here in the field, on the ground, in the trucks. They know what's going on within the industry. So I'm super glad that I was able to educate you on 13 vocabulary words that you will use as a freight broker in supply chain, in the trucking industry, and what they mean. Okay. One more thing I want to say is happy holidays. Shout out to my tree. Oh my goodness, what a beauty. But happy holidays from DD Logistics. Happy New Year. Okay, I wish you many blessings in 2025. Thank you for continuing to support my channel, and I will see you soon.